Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.
Remember, keeping an eye on your news, on your holidays, etc. is going to make a big difference. So if I have a lot of data coming out that will affect the U.S. dollar, obviously the Japanese yen during the Asian session, and even the Dow. That might be an odd thing for me to add in there, but even the Dow, I could be seeing activity closer to 110 or activity closer to 40. Obviously, less news, the closer I'm going to be to 40. The more, the closer I have the potential to be up near 110. Now, I mentioned the Dow, and let me discuss that for a moment. The actual yen itself, okay, and therefore any yen pair, including the dollar yen, is going to have a certain risk barometer type characteristic. Meaning, on any given day, that pair, so if I'm looking at that YUK symbol, it may move with the Dow, it may move with the dollar. Now, many of you that have been looking at those futures markets that often affect our FX pairs, you know that basically the dollar yen gives us insight into which is driving the market on any given day. Risk aversion, risk appetite. If it's risk appetite, we're going to see the Dow rally. If it's risk aversion, we're going to see the, usually, U.S. dollar rally. Risk aversion will also push the Dow lower. Okay? At the same time, just like risk appetite will push the dollar lower. Whichever one the dollar yen is tracking with on that day is giving you an idea, giving you a certain amount of insight into what the driver of the market is. Okay? Now that I understand volatility, when I identify a range that the dollar yen is trading within, if we find the dollar yen trading within a certain pip range on our charts, I can better identify that within this overall understanding of the characteristics of this dollar yen. So notice I just moved it down to a 1 month. If I'm trying to get a better idea of the pulse of this particular pair, the dollar yen, over the last 1 month, notice we're somewhere near 90 to the upside and about 40 to the downside with an average still of 70. So what's happened if I were to, when I jump from that 6-month sample to now the 1 month? The average is still the same, but the volatility going to the upside is now adjusted to just 90 pips versus the 110. So on average, we're seeing 70. We're still seeing that low towards 40, but now the upside is now only about 90. This is a fairly quiet pair. Okay? So again, understanding what's volatility in the specific pair, this is what I'm trying to share with you right now, because this is a big part of what type of environment I'm looking at in order to take advantage of the options, the volatility within these options. Okay, so having said all that, you can see some of the other pairs that you can trade through the ISE. We've got the, we talked about the Australian, well, actually we did not talk about the Australian dollar. Here's the Australian dollar. That would be the AUM in the way you're probably more familiar with it in terms of the way to spot. The Australian dollar, US dollar, that's the AUM. The British pound, the GBP. Okay, see that right here. And these are 1 month look back. So take a look at the average, take a look at the high to low. This is going to give you excellent insight into the type of volatility that you want to be taking advantage of, either when you're liquidating it or when you're looking to buy our options. We'll talk more about that in a moment. All right, if you're looking at, say, for example, the Swiss franc, you're going to look at the SFC, okay, and that's right here, for the Swiss franc. So what are your more volatile pairs? What are your more quiet pairs? All right, here's the dollar Canada. So just take a, kind of a quick idea. And what I'll probably do, I'll go ahead and take a snapshot of this 1 month view. I'll go ahead and take a snapshot of this, and I'll go ahead and post it at my blog at RagheeHorner.com, so you have a resource to get an idea of the volatility that I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So, having said that, let me go ahead and jump over to my charts now. So hopefully what you're seeing
Yep, we got them.
is on my charts. Okay, great. Okay, super. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of those symbols, some of those pairs, okay? I mentioned the YUK, and today there was some very dramatic activity in, you can look at the YUK, the EUI, okay? If there's a particular pair you want to take a look at, just let me know, and I'll be happy to pull that up. So I'm on actually eSignal. I'm not sure how you pull your charts up, whether you go back to the ISE website or whatever your choice is. Don't need that. Whatever your choice is. Here we go. Here's the ISE FX yen. Okay, U.S. dollar versus Japanese yen. Directionally, I'm not sure the experience level of the folks here in the room, so I'd like to talk about a couple basics before I get advanced. Most elementary basically is, what am I looking at when I see a downward trending YUK? All right, and I'll just blow up one of these charts a little bit more. So let's just load up this chart up right here. What am I looking at when I'm looking at the YUK? I'm looking at the dollar yen, obviously, but what does price tell me? What does this price tell me? This is basically telling me how many dollars I'll get for each yen, or if you want to look at it the other way, how many yen will turn into $1. So you can see here right now, 93.20 tells me for every dollar I get 93 yen, or I need 93 yen for every dollar. An upward trending market in the YUK, okay, in the dollar yen. Let's take a look at a view you're probably used to seeing, which would be the actual spot. Okay, here's the actual spot. Okay, and here's that YUK. I want you to have a frame of reference. Again, with my background being that a lot of traders come from that spot world. Okay, so if I'm trying to determine what's been happening in the dollar yen, the sell-off, what it's correlating with, is there strength, is there weakness? What I see here with a downtrending dollar yen is basically each dollar is actually yielding me fewer and fewer yen. That's what's happening in a downtrend. So the dollar, even though it was strong today, still weakened against the yen. When this market is heading higher, that tells me I've got a strong dollar and or weak yen, because each dollar is yielding me more and more yen. Right? So the downtrend is telling me, even with that strong dollar today, strong U.S. dollar, the yen gained. Now, I talked about before, the yen is often a risk barometer for me. And when I'm taking a look at what's happening in the Dow and in the dollar, let's take a quick look at the U.S. dollar index. Okay, this is what the U.S. dollar index did today. It rallied in a flight to safety, a flight to quality. It rallied, as did gold, by the way. And we could talk about gold and the Aussie and the continuous commodity index and our Aussie options. Okay, but both these markets rallied, giving us this kind of risk aversion feel for today, because, I mean, this is obvious, but we had a week down. It's a 60-minute chart, by the way.
Please visit www.ise.com/podcasts